Well, in case you were wondering what the view is like from the hot tub, why it is that I spend so much of my time in the hot tub, why the series is called The Hot Tub Curmudgeon, this is it. This is what it looks like. So, this morning I thought that I would tell you, thought I would tell you about 15 years after the Gays and Mormons weekends. I really wanted to get back into that, something as fantastic as that had been. And in a book by Will and Ariel Durant, they talk about that. They say, what is the difference between a primitive society and an advanced society? And they suggest that the advanced society is no more hospitable to insiders than is a primitive society. They're both hospitable to insiders. And the barbaric or a primitive society is no more barbaric to outsiders than is an advanced society. I mean, we dropped atomic bombs. Well, the atomic bombs were actually somewhat insignificant compared to the firebombing that we did on Japanese cities that we knew were entirely made up of wood. Okay, so what is the difference then between an advanced and a primitive society? And they suggest that the difference is the scope of who is considered to be an insider. And I suggest that if you would go down to Costco and take a look at who's in, I mean, the lady who checks whether or not, who checks your receipt as you go out the door, she's from Bulgaria. I always call her Miss Bulgaria. So I'd say that we're fitting that definition of an advanced society, given who we consider to be insiders here. Oh, okay. So I was looking at that, and my favorite story to illustrate that idea is a guy named Gabby Gabaldon, Gabaldon. I urge you to look him up. He was a Mexican kid living in East LA, orphaned at a young age, and so to keep body and soul together on the streets of LA, he shined shoes. And after a while, a Japanese family took him in and raised him. So then when he was old enough and the war got started, he joined the Marine Corps. And when he got over to Saipan, it was obvious to him that this was going to be shooting fish in a barrel. And so he was put on sentry duty, and he sneaked out into the woods, and he captured a couple of Japanese soldiers and took their guns away from them, and then explained to them in this slang Japanese that he had learned back in LA that it was going to be shooting fish in a barrel. First, the huge bombardment from all of the naval ships offshore, and then the Japanese thought that somehow they were going to be safe down in caves that they had dug, and he described the flamethrowers that would be used to get them down in the caves. So he urged them to go get their friends and bring them in to surrender, and so 7 guys came back, and he took their weapons away. And when he brought them in as prisoners, his sergeant really cussed him out, told him he'd get court-martialed if he didn't stay on sentry duty, and he didn't. He went back out. He ultimately was responsible for the surrender of 1,200 Japanese soldiers. I urge you to look it up. There's a lot more to the story. It's both tragic and interesting. So I thought, well, if it's true of a society, then it ought to be true for an individual, that the more the more us's that you have and the fewer thems that you have, well, the more advanced your civilized self becomes. Is that true? And so I was thinking about it using these like the gays and Mormons model. Who would be some thems that we'd all agree, yeah, they are thems, they ain't us's. And I thought, well, how about registered sex offenders? Maybe we'd even go out to McNeil Island and hold these weekends. So I got together some people at work, including Donna's sister Gretchen, and we, I think 6 of them said, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool. We'll do it." One guy said, "Hell no, he wouldn't have anything to do with it." So then, how I need to like get a hold of some registered sex offenders. Well, to get out on parole, they have to be dealing with a registered sex offender therapist. And so I called one of them up and described what it was I wanted to do. And she said, "Well, that's just a wonderful idea, and I'm begging you, don't do it. Please, instead, why don't you choose axe murderers? If you do this, one of these pedophiles will become extremely offended and angry at something that's said in the weekend, and you won't know it. They won't let you know. And then they will go home and act out on 50, 60 children. Your axe murderer, 1, 2 people max. So please, switch groups." So that was the end of my effort to try us's and thems. If you happen to come across some good thems that we could do that with, well, let's try it.